Welcome back to the second hour of Kivumbi 2022. Now, tonight's discussion is on integrity. There's been a push and pull, and remarkably, it seems as though the IEBC, the DPP, and the judiciary are reading different laws. The judiciary says that if you have a questionable past, if you have been impeached, or if you have a criminal case that has not been settled or has not been concluded in court, then you can't run. The Chief Justice Martha Koome was right here at Standard when she said that. It was echoed by a judge later on in the Mike Sonko case, and of course they consolidated that case. But it's a big question that is being asked right now. Can anyone with questionable reputation or past run? And the IEBC is clearing them, including the people who are red carded. That's the reason why we're here tonight, talk about the integrity question, and of course to ask if that bar has been lowered so much. To help in this discussion is Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, my women representative from the great county of Migori. Thank you so much, Dr. for coming.
Thank you very much. And is it good evening or good night?
Whichever.
Good evening, viewers.
Yes, and of course, my friend, Advocate Setabao Lekansori. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for having me.
In a moment, we will be joined by Dr. Jeff Kaluyu. He's running for president for the second time. He ran in 2017. He's running again. So we just wait for him to settle before he comes to the round table. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. Let me begin with asking this question to you as an advocate first. I know you sit in the Azimio One Kenya presidential campaign board, right? But let's talk about integrity tonight first. Chapter 6 of the Constitution, looking at the clearance going on by the IEBC and all those people with questionable past, and they're getting cleared in the counties and in the constituencies. Would you say that the integrity bar, Wakili, has been lowered so much to accommodate individuals who are running in this election?
Well, thank you, Ken, for having me, and thank you, Ken and KTN, for once again putting this integrity issue back on the national debate. This is an issue that some of the candidates in this election have been trying so hard to sweep under the carpet or to throw back to the back burner, and they nearly succeeded. But integrity is a critical issue in leadership. All right, so integrity is one of the issues that you cannot wish away. I know there are candidates and their aspirants and certain individuals, when the integrity issue is raised, they feel like they're being targeted. But integrity is a fundamental and critical issue. To answer your question, integrity, whether or not the factor of integrity has to be considered, and to go right into your question of what the Chief Justice said, as to how the integrity issue will play for those candidates who are being cleared. Obviously, it's a long debate, it's a convoluted debate, as lawyers would say, but it's also as simple as you would want to see it. And the simplicity of it is this: if you have an integrity issue that has been determined, all right? If you have an integrity issue that has been determined, and you have no further recourse to appeal or review, then that matter is settled. You cannot run. However, if the matter is not yet settled, there is an appeal, there is a review that is yet to be considered, then because of the presumption of innocence and because of the provisions of the Constitution, including Article 99, which says that all avenues of review and appeal have to be exhausted, then you have to be allowed to exhaust those avenues. Okay. But as we go along, I will create a distinction, Ken, between election and selection. Okay. And the Constitution itself provides that distinction, that election is subject to free and fair elections. Selection now goes to other factors. Okay. Yes.
Very important and very fundamental, because the argument, and thank you, Dr. for joining us, the argument tonight that we have to put on the table is let the people decide. Dr. Pamela, let the people decide whether, and I'm glad you don't have issues that have been raised out there, but at the end of the day, they say, stop using the law to stop us from running. Let us run, let the people, the buck stops with the electorate, Dr.
Thank you very much. Allow me to do something very small before I come to your question.
Okay.
Allow me to send my sincere condolences to the family of Honorable Kamoti, who was laid to rest today in Rabai. Pole sana kwa familia and the people of Rabai, and may God strengthen them. Having said that, the issue of the backstopping with the electorate may be fine. But to what extent could these electorates be aware of the wrongdoings of, say, a candidate like Pamela or Daktari or my learned fellow friend here? I think the idea of integrity as used and even practiced in Kenya, sometimes when I listen to us talk about it, I get this feeling that we've not really understood what it is.
Okay.
And it is important to wonder with the same electorates that we are talking about, how do they understand this word? And even to the individuals concerned, what do they understand by integrity? Because if we take integrity to mean that quality of being honest, that quality of having strong moral principles, then even before you wait for somebody else to question you or question your character and your doings, then you should be able to question yourself, you know. And this brings me to the concept of the value system that we have had as a nation. Over the years, I think we have eroded them enough so that today we don't really cling to what is right and reject what is wrong. So I think on one hand, it is right to say that let the people decide. But what are the people deciding on?
Are they aware? Are they aware that the people may not even
They may not even be aware, because sometimes when we are talking about some of these cases, like the cases that things that people do at work, all these people who are elected me are not aware. They may not be privy to all the actions and decisions that I make. Like I think I was reading one of the articles recently, and they were trying to evaluate counties on the accessibility of information by the people of that county, audited accounts and things like that, you know. When we are talking about issues of fraud and corruption and things that are undertaken in the offices, then some of these electorates might not be aware of what crimes I have committed. And even if they have heard about it, but they cannot justify it, they cannot prove it, and that brings a false when we want to say let the people decide. If the authorities, for example, if it is a case of somebody is being accused of fraudulent using public funds, then you see the only person who can justify this, who can even discover that this has happened, is the Auditor General.
Yes.
It is not the electorates in the village. So they have no idea about this. So I think it may be good to go through this thing a step-by-step kind of process. And whoever is alleging that somebody is either corrupt or fraudulent use of public funds or misuse of abuse of office and such like things should declare this to the public in good time and let the public know if it is the public to decide.
I like how you started. For you, it's not even for a candidate to wait for issues to be raised or questions to be raised over the integrity. It's upon them to take that decision. But I'll come to you. Let me bring Dr. Kaluyu. Thank you for coming tonight. First, you haven't gone before the IEBC, right?
I have not. I'm here to. It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. 2 p.m. It's a holiday on Wednesday.
Wednesday, 2 p.m.
Oh, they've given you Wednesday, 2 p.m. Yeah. You know definitely the issues of integrity is not on the table for that day.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to take a global look at how Kenyans have treated issues of integrity. One, the judiciary says if you have questionable past, if you have been impeached, for example, and this has not been overturned by a superior court, then you remain impeached, you cannot run.
Yes.
If you have been charged with corruption and you have exhausted appeals, there's no other avenues, then you can't run.
Yes.
All these people are on the ballot. From where you sit, is this right? Is it a notion of integrity that is completely different from the rest that we have?
So thank you so much for having me, Ken, and also for having me time to time to explore, to kind of give us the audience that you give us all the time. with the issue of integrity, Chapter 4 of the Constitution, I would say there are a couple different categories of this. Let's talk of the process. And I want to comment IEBC from what I have seen, because I've been going through the process, because you want the process, whether you're preparing the candidates or trying to make it easy for the candidates. That's for the candidates, because there's candidates, there is the voters and the whole system. So they have been really busy trying to put things together. The process is enormous, but we are always looking, and we want to be able to see, because that's what the Constitution requires to do, to make sure it's fair, transparent, accountable, and simple, so that even the candidates themselves, they can be able to navigate through it. So I commend the IEBC for what they have done so far. However, we have a few issues of who gets to go through the process and get past it, which requires a lot of little details that we have to put through. So we are just looking for what is the integrity part of it, to make sure the IEBC is counting it correctly.
But Dr. Are they even considering integrity? Is that even on the table at the IEBC?
The integrity, I think there are different things, and Chebukati has actually, expanded it by saying, you are not guilty until you are proven guilty. I think that's where the contention is.
The contention is here. Yeah. They are reading a different law from what the ODPP is reading and what the judiciary is reading. How comes it's only the IEBC which is waiting for an innocent verdict, right? And the rest, the Chief Justice said it, alluded to it here, that it's not right for them to run. How comes it's the IEBC seemingly reading from a different script?
It looks like it's lawyers taking different perspectives, because these are all lawyers, and I'm sure, Ken, you're also a lawyer. I'm sure you have your own perspective too. But what we are talking about is that the way they see the law, if you have been impeached, it is assumed that people have rejected you, and you should not be running for the office.
Or the race integrity issues on your whatever. If you are a governor, for example, they question your ability as a governor. It can't be. Let me talk to the lawyer. It can't be that we are reading different laws. It can't be.
You know, Ken, there's something I don't want us to lose sight of. You know, first of all, let us agree that integrity is a fundamental issue in public service, and that is an established fact in law. You know, when you combine the two, you're saying it's a fact and it's also established in law, then it is conclusive. And the reason I say this is because if you look at our laws, the legal and institutional framework, before you get to that question, let us first of all address the place of integrity in public service.
Okay.
And if you look at our laws, the legal and institutional framework, there is a very high premium that is paid on the issue of integrity. We have a whole chapter in the Constitution of
Incidentally, the shortest. I always say that.
Yes.
Incidentally, the shortest in the Constitution.
But also
and the most important.
The most legislated on, and I'll tell you why.
Yes.
So it is chapter 6. It is, you may say it is short because it is, it runs from Article 73 to Article 80. Only a few, about 7 articles. But there are so many other laws that ground it. You have the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commissions Act. You have the Leadership and Integrity Act. You have the Public Officers Ethics Act. So if it comes to how much backup any chapter of the Constitution has, perhaps that one has the most backup.
Okay.
And it tells you how important integrity has been taken as an issue in the eyes of the Kenyan public. It also tells you how much of a problem it is for it to be legislated. There's a lot of duplicity, multiplicity, and so on. There's a bit of an overkill. You have so many laws saying the same thing.
Could that be the problem? Why you can't nail someone using a
it's not the
law?
problem.
Okay.
The problem is simple. It is something called political will.
Okay, political will.
Political will.
Okay.
And that is what this election is going to change. The law is there.
Yeah, hold your thought, political will. Now, Daktari, politics and law clashes, which one wins?
More often than not, I'm answering you from Kenyan perspective. I think I've seen politics win.
Exactly.
Because what happens is like somebody is caught doing something wrong, and they are taken to court if there are people in positions of authority and leadership, and then they would galvanize their people, and the people start confronting each other.
Leave us alone with our thief.
Yes, and of course they will not say it's their thief, but they will say this is our person, you are finishing us. You know, we even fall back as far as issues of ethnicity are concerned. So if I was to be sacked from a race, then all the Luos are sacked. You know, we are being finished from the system, and I think that is where the problem is. I think we sometimes use politics to overshadow so many things, and it is not right. By the end of the day, it is the same people who are ganging up to stop the action against the offender who end up suffering the most. And that's why year in, year out, like if I may just preempt, and my colleague here may agree with me, we in Azimio, you know, my presidential candidate is Raila Amolo Odinga, much as I also really congratulate and appreciate Nyambane because he is trying to live what he has been acting in the past. But what is there is, I think, like what Kenyans are looking for, the first top two things that Kenyans are looking for from Raila Amolo Odinga presidency is this war against graft, the winning of this war against corruption in Kenya once and for all, and then the restoration of the rule of law. So, as he says, there is a lot of legislation in our land. In fact, sometimes I look at our constitution, I look at all those acts of parliament, and I'm wondering, what is our problem? It may not be legislation anymore, but the goodwill to implement it. The political goodwill is mentioning, according to me, might just be one will, which is lacking. But then, even on the part of the implementers, I think some of them are not serious enough.
Okay.
It's a matter of, like, let me give you a very off example, which can glaringly demonstrate the unwillingness of the implementers to do the right thing. A case of a young girl has been raped. Then you are told, because the community is not comfortable with discussing this in public and in the court and where, so let's set it out of court. And that becomes the end of the story. And such many offenses go unpunished in our land. And that's why I'm saying maybe the legislation, like the case of that chapter 6, yes, it looks very weak. But like I said, the first instance that I meet in that chapter, which I think should be modified, somebody needs to define what integrity is all about. And then it is not just enough to say that the behavior, what are these behaviors?
Okay.
They need to be outlined, because then it is so blanket, it is so ambiguous. Because if you look at our Kenyan society, even from the composition, if you went picking somebody's cow at night in Lowland, then you are a thief. But to the Samburu and the others, you are a man enough now, you have to take a cow from somebody to go and marry your wife. And you see all this.
That's where Article 10 comes in.
Yes, it comes in, but you see how late. And then using these cultural diversities, the lawyers can still argue it out in court, and they still have something to say about it.
Daktari, very interesting. Talk to me about the lack of public goodwill, because when she says that and when he alludes to that, my intentions are to see where it starts. Because if you talk about lack of political will, it still goes to the election. Because if you elect a leader who will not guarantee that political goodwill, you're still back to what we're talking about. So where do you begin with this political goodwill? Where is it? Do we wait, for example, and elect either William Ruto or Raila Odinga to the office, and as she says, count on them to ensure they enforce the rule of law? Where does it begin? Or should we be looking at vetting these candidates right now?
In 2017, I argued that political will was significant in the sense that the laws are there, and I agree with the doctor here. There are more than enough laws that we need to really exert power on. Only that we don't have the leaders who have to do that. But now we have to go to the meat of it. We have the same leaders who have been running their campaigns for more than a decade. They have been in positions of power, from prime minister, to deputy president, going from the same promises from 2013, 2007 or 8, there to 2017, because I was them, they were my opponents, but they have not been able to fulfill. Today, the big question is, are we better off 5 years ago than 5 years ago, 20 years ago, or 10 years ago? Definitely, we don't like, and we are all here arguing that we don't like where we are today. And saying just simple narrative, the people who are involved, and sometimes the so-called front runners, they have been in government for a long time. So they have brought us, all of them, not themselves by themselves, but together with the rest of the people. They have brought us where we are. They have been a factor in bringing us where we are. And we are saying, logically, we don't like where we are. So basically, what are we saying? We are saying that they are not being able to lead. Asking them to lead again, they are going to lead them to the same stuff we are. We need fresh start. And that's what I'm offering today. Because
are Kenyans listening? Do you believe Kenyans are listening to you?
The Kenyans are listening to me, and because there's a lot of civic education that is required. Yeah. If you do not know your rights, you don't have rights. Because that's basic. You don't know your rights, you have no rights, because you can't accept the rights. So one of the things I'm asking IEBC is to make sure they go on a high drive, to make sure people are getting to know whether they are being categorized as Azimio, Kenya Kwanza, or my party, which is UCP. They don't vote and get anything from Azimio or Kenya Kwanza. They get anything that they vote for themselves, because they vote for their future, not Azimio, not Kenya Kwanza, not my party, which is UCP. You have to be in that ballot box. First, it has no name, no picture, no ID, so nobody will ever know who you have voted for. So this business of we are Azimio, we are Dr. Jeff, or UCP, it doesn't apply. And the only person who can make it very clear is IEBC. Chebukati is my friend. I'm trying to ask him to just make sure there is more people doing civic education immediately after the candidates have been cleared, so that people know when they live today the way they have voted. How they have voted is how they live today. So we want them to know it's them and their future in that ballot box, and there will be no associations or categories.
Okay. You got me confused, but it's okay. You got me confused, but it's okay. Yes.
It's good to be confused. Let me finally answer your question.
Yes. Now,
let me finally answer your question on the issue between the Chief Justice and Chebukati, who is right. You know,
and the DPP has also taken that stance.
And the DPP has also wedged in. In my view, and now speaking as a lawyer, not as you know, taking any political position, but speaking as a lawyer, my personal position, from a very informed and learned position, is that Chebukati is the one who has the correct position.
Okay.
And the law in this case again is very clear, as I always say. You know, if you have a case and the case has not been exhausted, then you are entitled to run. However, on the case of impeachment is a different thing, because you see, impeachment has already stopped you from holding public office. All right? So if you have been impeached, even if you have an appeal or a review or any kind of, you know, application that you have done, then if you are allowed to run, it will be changing the status quo, which is to allow you to again hold public office, which you have been stopped from doing. So that is, I think, the correct legal position. However, there is one more thing that I think, to make. One more point. In this election, in my view, there are certain candidates who may not have been taken through a legal process, but in the public domain, they have made certain pronouncements, which are confessions on the issue of integrity or lack thereof. So we are talking about convictions, but there is something that is stronger than a conviction, Ken, and it is a confession. So when you have a candidate who has confessed to matters that impugn on their integrity, you have a candidate who has said, I have taken a gift of 2,500 acres of land in Taita Taveta from someone who had a loan with a public parastatal. As a deputy president, You take a gift from someone who has a loan with a parastatal. That is a conflict of interests. It contravenes every fabric of integrity. And it is actually in contravention of specific provisions of the Leadership and Integrity Act. You have the same individual who has been adjudged by a competent court to have displaced a fellow Kenyan in the Muteshi case. You have the same individual who, in the Western case, has a case that is alive, but where he has already been found to have taken public land. And in fact, his case now is, I am willing to compensate the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. You know, that is an individual who has made public pronouncements that amount to confession. A confession is stronger than a conviction. Because a conviction you can appeal, but a confession, where do you go? You are the one who has accepted.
I'm going to Daktari, but tell me something. You say the IEBC has the final say and they're right on this interpretation. When the Sonko case came up, there was conflict of statements as the Chief Justice, and I've just been sent a note here from the EACC also on a similar position that has been taken. When it was so clear that if you have been impeached, for example, you cannot run. When the IEBC that you say has the final say says, we will still clear.
If I heard it correctly, if I heard Chebukati correctly, on the issue of impeachment, he had indicated that he's not going to clear unless that position has changed.
He indicated that he's not. So
he's not going to clear. So unless that position has changed, and if he decides to clear impeached individuals, then obviously I personally would think he's wrong on that, because we are talking about status quo. So if, for example, you have an appeal, let me give you live examples. You know, we have Waluke, for example, who has a conviction but has appealed. And so the status quo as it is right now is that he is a member of parliament. So nothing changes. If he goes to run, nothing changes. If you have Sonko, who has been impeached, who has been removed from office, and now decides to go and run, his running changes the status quo. So that is basically the market difference.
Daktari. Something that I may agree partially with Bwana Kenchori here. Much as the law is right to suspend the conviction of anyone until found guilty, but when it comes to this issue of integrity, then I want to lean more, and I would like to invite all of us and Kenyans to lean more on the issue of ethics and morality. Because when we are talking about questionable character, somebody who might be tempted to do something which is not right, you know, which is not acceptable, which will disorganize or make other people suffer, then morality, according to me, is the in thing here. And that's why I mentioned that if you want to be a person of integrity, a person who wants to just uphold what's right, then more often than not, you will not wait for somebody to condemn you. You might have to condemn yourself, like what he's now saying about the confession of certain people. If that is what they confess to have done, then they are guilty and they need to refrain from it and surrender. And that is an indication. Because if today I was tempted to take this cab, then I wake up and say, oh, I took this cab, but then I am willing to pay for it. Now, has that really dealt with that tendency within me to be tempted again to take that TV and that pen and that something else? And that's why I'm saying the law might not really solve our problem as Kenyans when we are talking about issues integrity.
But morality has no place in law.
Yes. No. I think morality has a place in law.
It doesn't.
Most of the legal issues that we talk about, actually we try to make rules and regulations to try and direct what is wrong or right, or what would be acceptable.
You cannot legislate
That's
morality.
Why I'm saying the law may not help us. Because look at our argument. If the law is saying, yes, Pamela is not guilty until proved, then proving Pamela guilty or not guilty takes almost a lifetime.
Yeah.
So then, when will this proof be found?
Yes.
And so if we have to go by the law, then one, I talked about the implementers. Let our judiciary be quick enough to be able to determine cases as they come, so that if I'm accused of something that I've not done and I'm able to prove that I've not done it, and if I'm accused of something that I've done and they are able to prove that I did it, then it should be concluded, so that we don't end up with this suspense. Because when this suspense, it is actually what has allowed all this.
Okay.
Why would these cases take that long? What is the issue? Why can't some case be listened to and brought to a termination? So I am thinking that a combination of all these things, much as you are saying that morality cannot be legislated, but it forms a very integral part of our system. Like this word that I'm calling integrity. Did you hear what it is? Quality of being honest. You know, you can also not really legislate that. You can't use the law to determine how honest Pamela is. You will need to use moral values and some standards set by the said society to prove Pamela honest or dishonest. And that's why I'm saying, according to me, issues integrity, we are not just going to base them on law. And then to just also bring to the attention of the colleagues and even Kenyans who are watching me tonight, I've seen in the European countries, when somebody is just mentioned adversely on something, they would be more than willing to step aside. And now at that point, they are not practicing the law. They are on morality.
You will wait.
They are doing ethics. That is being ethical. Oh, they are questioning my being in this office. So can I step aside so that they can investigate everything? And I think that is, if we are going to be a mature people who want to govern ourselves corruption free, then we have to reach that level. Beginning with, where did you say something? Where does it start from? In Kenya, I told you, it is a very vicious cycle. It will involve both the leaders and the led. For example, in Kenya, all those laws, if you look at our center of authority, it is in the presidency. So until we get this president who will be waking up one morning and say, even if you are my wife and you are doing something that is going to jeopardize the well-being of fellow Kenyans, then I will sacrifice you. You know, that kind of thing.
I hear you.
Yes.
I hear you, but I'd like to ask, I know that point we've not exhausted it, and it's very important, law and morale. I like to bring it back through Akili also. But tell me something, Daktari. Do you have a sense that, because today, she complained, she spoke about the judiciary. But you know, when the Chief Justice made that pronouncement, you're likely to see a politician going for his services to challenge. One, how did you say that? You don't have immunity from the bench. Why did you say that publicly on a TV station or a radio station? A politician will hire. So it's politics again clashing with the law, and likely politics will win. But tell me this, the law is the law, but they're using that same law to defeat that law. That's what they're doing, because it's quote after quote after article to ensure that it goes round and round, and finally the law says this, but they'll use the same law to defeat that very provision, Doctor.
Like the doctor here said, that they need to expedite the cases. That way they are concluded fast, because they know the cases take long, there's a backlog, therefore you can easily keep the wheels of the judiciary, you know, rolling, and, you know, they will stop even maybe after the election when you are already a member of parliament or anything else.
And you can't impeach them at that point.
You can't impeach them at that point, and they will also appeal, and it will take forever, maybe the next 5 years before finishing their term. But here are the good facts, and I like also what my both colleagues here have said, that if the moral issue, and I know that some case came up in the state of New Jersey, something to do with the morality and law. When we talk of judge saying that it has been done in good faith, that good faith piece kind of makes it gray, because there's a determination whether it was good faith, what is good faith, what is not. So there is an element of morality, law in morality. Morality in the law. But the evidence, the evidence is in. You know, we can say the cases are clear. The evidence is in. Every politician, every leader has a record. We know where they have been, how they have led. How do we let the people know? Here's the biggest gap.
Okay.
The common person doesn't know a lot about
Exactly
the
her
record
point, yes.
of our leaders. And I'm well traveled, I'm sure you know that. So most of the outside countries, when you before or you are questioned or you are mentioned in cases of integrity, of leadership, you are asked to step aside. Connecting it with the record of the leaders, we know their records. Therefore, we need to be able to speak their records so that we can vet them publicly. Now, here is the important point. And thank you so much because you have accommodated me even virtually when I'm here locally or whenever I'm traveling. You have always accommodated me. Now, the thing is that we need that kind of coverage where, and I ask the government and ask Uhuru to leave that legacy, that every candidate should actually be given at least minimum 30% of coverage. If you want to buy the rest 200% and you have the money, good. But there should be a sanction that all the media should have gotten more than that percent from you. All the media should be able to give the candidates at least that percent. If they give that percent coverage, they will expose the rest of the candidates. Today we have just front runners, and those front runners, they have the money, and they can be able to do with the speakers and bring the people, together with their big cash wallet. All that, and all people know is what they want to know. So the rest of us who know the truth and who can be able to speak the truth in venues and media platforms like this, we do not have the platform given to us. So I'm asking Kenyatta to leave one legacy for democracy to prosper, to thrive, to make sure all information is out there. All democracies.
But you understand these are private media stations apart from KBC.
They are. However, there is private government partnership. They cannot, because they are also using public airways.
Okay.
So they can be able to be sanctioned. In West Africa, there are a couple of countries now functioning with minimum of 30% coverage of all presidential candidates.
Okay.
So that I'm asking also Chebukati can be able to cut in. He can be able to help in doing that, so that civic education can be really running.
It's important. I remember there's a time Wakili, IEBC even had budgets for civic education. I wonder if IEBC has that budget any further or any longer. But talk to me before I go to Wakili. Tell me something. If you had a questionable past,
yes,
this is the second time you're running.
Yes.
If you had a court case that is pending,
yes,
would you take the high road or you'll take the road of morality?
You bet I will. I would, there's a reason why if you want to be a leader, you must stay in certain lanes. That I have tried to stay, I stay.
So you wouldn't go contest and say, no, I haven't been adjudged as...
I have no corruption file. I have not part of any cartel. I only profess my loyalty to one group of people in Kenya, the Kenyan people.
Okay.
My name, I'm not going to be part of, I was corrupt, you will not find it, and you would have found it. So if I was corrupt, done what is not right for the people,
you would have not presented yourself.
I would have stepped aside, and I'm asking the other candidates who have been mentioned adversely to step aside, because we are not short of leaders. I will lead.
Wakili.
I think, Ken, you're being unfair to my brother Jeff.
No, I'm not being unfair.
Jeff has no corruption.
This is a general.
Jeff has no corruption.
I'm not fun either, because I have no corruption file.
I think if you're looking for corruption, you know where to go. It's not here with Jeff. Jeff is clean.
That's a general question.
It is okay.
Yeah. But there's something, Ken, that you asked my sister Pamela.
Yes.
The issue of morality. I think it's important that we address it. You know, integrity is a moral issue. Purely, it is as simple as that. Integrity is a moral issue. And if you look at the law, it actually talks about that state officers must meet such moral and ethical requirements. Even the Constitution talks about moral and ethical requirements that are provided for in law. And that now includes the issue of financial probity. It includes the issue of performance. By the way, performance is one of them. So you cannot be sitting in a public office and doing nothing. Like our deputy president has been saying, I've been denied, ability to work. That is failing
I think
to perform.
responsibilities were taken away from him.
That is still, no. The law requires you to perform. And
That's
if you
what
cannot
it says.
perform,
Yeah.
if you cannot perform, then you have to resign. The decent thing to do is to resign, because if you're sitting in a public office, enjoying public benefits, and sitting on public space, occupying public space, squatting on public space, taking our money, taking our privileges, using all the accoutrements that go with public office, then you must work.
I've learned a new word.
If the deputy president has not been working for the last 4 years, Ken, here in KTN, if you don't work for 3 days, you'll be sacked.
3 days. I think if I don't show up, if I don't show up for work tomorrow morning,
4 years of not working.
I will not work here.
4 years
Yes.
of not working, and someone is calling himself a public servant. That in itself is a moral issue. You cannot be sitting in a public office for 4 years and doing nothing. You cannot. So integrity is a
that's
moral
part
issue.
of the confession that he said.
Yes.
That's a confession.
There are so many confessions.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a confession of 7 billion only. It's still a confession. Someone saying, no, we only took 7 billion, not 21.
No, he didn't say that, Wakili. He didn't say that.
No.
He didn't say we took 7 billion.
What did he say?
When Wakili, he didn't say.
That's what
No, he
he said.
talked about the money that was lost.
Yeah.
He didn't say we took.
It's just about.
I mean,
No.
does he have to say? Does he have to say we took?
I mean, you're a lawyer. You can't say that. He didn't
When
say
someone knows how much has been stolen,
Yeah.
he
He didn't
knows.
say stolen.
And
Lost.
if he says he knows, and the money is lost, and he speaks on public television so boldly, saying how much has been stolen, specifically quoting a figure and saying this is how much has been lost.
That was at the
Then
judiciary.
you must-
It was a function at the judiciary.
Yes,
if I'm
in
not
fact,
wrong.
a function, a judicial function.
Which he was not invited to, although.
But no,
He
the
just showed
important
up.
thing,
Yes.
Ken, don't lose me. You're now being the lawyer. The issue is there was a 7 billion confession.
Yes.
The wording you can change or you can play with, but there was a confession of how much was lost. If you know how much was lost, you also know who took it. But the important thing, and this is what Pamela raised,
Yeah.
the issue of morality. I know, we are taught in elementary law school that the law does not legislate, and you said it correctly. But in this case, integrity, as soon as we legislated on integrity, we were getting into the moral question.
Okay.
Yeah. And integrity, everything to do with integrity is about ethics, is about honesty, as Muhesha said, is about, what Jeff was saying. It is about they say character is a tree, but reputation is a shadow, right? So in this case, integrity is like reputation. It is what the other people see. Actually, integrity is a combination of both. It is a combination of reputation and character.
Okay. Something that was fundamental, and it was fundamentally said by Daktari here, is a blame that was clearly put on the state agencies. Daktari, do you feel the state agency have deliberately failed to implement the integrity law? Have they been deliberate, or do you think there's something missing? I know they ask for a lot of things. They ask for additional funds. EACC will ask for teeth to bite. I mean, they ask for so many things. Have they failed to legislate? Have they failed just to ensure that the integrity law is implemented? What is going on?
To some extent, yes. To another extent, it may be no, now that I'm really not one of them. But from what we observe, for example, I want to just applaud what my colleague here raised. It is in history in this country. This said Raila Amolo Odinga, we are talking about today as the 5th president of Kenya, has walked out of government severally and left lucrative seats and goodies that go with it, just because he thought something was not going on right according to maybe what was agreed to be done that time. My sister Martha Karua, congratulations again her for coming back so strongly, because I think when she questions things that I think borders on integrity, and she had to leave, and people thought her political career was ended. But ya Mungu ni mengi, I'm so happy the way she has bounced back. She walked out of a government and said, you can't take me to the shamba, I can remember her, and give me a djembe, but you tie my hands at the back so that I cannot dig. And that was her. So the most honorable thing for anybody to do when they think things are not going on in the right manner like we appreciate our Deputy President Samoei Arap Ruto. But where he has failed, according to me, is this issue of integrity. With that consciousness, with that energy, and the desire to see Kenyans prosper, he cannot tell us and convince any of us that he's been ripped off every duty, but is sitting pretty to the end and wants to be the president after doing nothing for all those years. That is unacceptable. And so when you are asking about this deliberate, I said yes, it is deliberate, because even those who are in authority, whether it is the EACC or the DPP or the judiciary, before we come to the office, each one of them has got the moral authority to reject and to act on things in a certain manner. So when they really think this is immoral, this is not according to the laid rules and regulations, they need to condemn it, even at a personal level. And so, backed up with the office and the legislations he's quoting, I'm glad that you finally bailed me out, because all these laws, if you look at the very constitution of Kenya, it is based on some moral law, the Bible, and even the traditional setup of various communities, how they made things work that caused harmony. That is exactly what law and regulations are all about, just to uphold that which will cause people to live in harmony with one another. I think that is my basic understanding of the law. So let our officers and the various officers make the deliberate effort. I remember one time the one of the, I think he was chairing Ethics and Anti-Corruption Authority Commission at the time, Patrick Lumumba, and he said, corruption fights. What is at stake, according to me, in our nation is that almost everybody else's hands is tied in one way or another, so that there is a bit of fearing. I cannot execute this. Now, this is Mijungu, you know, the way you praised me when I came in as your women rep, yeah? So now, this is Mijungu who is now involved in this case. Now, this is serious. Then we have to find some other way. So I think there is a level of complacency that we need to get rid of in our nation, and we will be well.
And Dr. it goes back to the individuals who give those positions. Right now, either Raila Odinga or the Deputy President William Ruto will win this election, or Dr. Kaluyu will win, or Nyambane will win this election. It goes back to that. Who will they be putting in those positions of responsibility? And that question, especially the ones...
hold it. That question, who, brings me to borrow some leaf again from the Americans. I know America is a very interesting nation. There are those who are extreme on the crookedness and those who are so good. But one thing they share in common about who becomes their leader, before they even reach the level where you are being cleared, like you were saying that after these people are cleared, then they need to be civic education. I think that is too late. These people will follow you right from birth to even know any small wrong things you did as a kindergarten child, you know, because they want to be sure that we are putting somebody who has got a track record of honesty and truth, even when they were children. And this is where Kenyans fail. Somebody just comes up, gives a lot of rallies and some monies, and the other day people were describing something called hired crowds, and there they are, they are leaders.
Dr. same question but a different way. Now that you're on the ballot, do you think, honestly, and do you believe the IEBC can change this equation for Kenyans? Do you think the IEBC, for example, would decide tomorrow, not because I don't have a certificate, that's just one of them, but because there's been so many issues raised about me, they'll just decide, you know what, we are not clearing this candidate? Do you think we can get to that level?
We will get to that level if And I believe I have worked with Chebukati from 2017, and I've seen him improve more, step stronger grounds to exert certain conditions or principles or certain things that he wants to be done. And you have seen the last 2 days, if you are not able to satisfy certain things, then he has given you another chance, or he has ejected your candidacy. But stepping back to the women rep, Doc here, Dr. Odhiambo, in the case of the integrity, where the candidates needs to be able to say themselves, and we have a tendency of cherry picking. When somebody has done something good, we say he has done something very good and he should be cleared based on that one thing. We are not necessarily all the time balanced. What about the other things he has, for lack of better words, messed up for our country? So we need to be able to have balanced approach to, if the current leaders, they have done certain things that they do not allow them to pass the test of integrity, they need, even on their own, and I agree with Odhiambo here.
If they don't, my question, if they don't, do you think IEBC can do it?
The IEBC can be able to do it.
But will they?
Yes, I expect them to do that, because all of us, only maybe 10% have been cleared. Or maybe they are going to, the 70% we are going to still to face the IEBC. Yeah. But the record is clear. The evidence is seen for everyone. Odhiambo here has said, doctor has already said, they are investigated in many other countries from childbirth, and the record of positive and the negatives they have. If you have not been passing the vetting that we have, it's just one thing. We want to know your record, where you have not done things correctly and where you have done things correctly and where you deserve the credit. If we were to say that today, the many leaders, they will not, they will fail the test. And that, I propose, I will pass that test and I'm ready to lead.
We will see.
And they can be able to
I want to answer that question.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to attempt answering that question.
Okay.
And Jeff has, I think, has made a good effort. But whether IEBC has the power to do it or not, first of all, I don't think they have the power to say, we don't think you passed the test, because it's not for them to decide, right? Because the law has already said, what test is there to be passed.
Yes.
But this is my point on that. If IEBC clears William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua, they will have no moral basis, moral, legal or other basis to stop anybody else on moral grounds. Yeah? I have already said there are so many confessions from these candidates, and one of them even is facing serious charges in court. I think it is Edwin Sifuna the other day who said, when you read their lineup, it sounds like a charge sheet. And I agree. But the thing is, on purely moral grounds, if IEBC clears the lineup of the Kenya, so-called Kenya Kwanza team, they will have lost any moral or legal basis to bar anybody else.
Okay.
Because to me, that is the highest point of, if it is moral ineptitude, then you cannot go beyond that. This election, Ken, and I'm not here to, to campaign for my candidate, but I will tell you, this election there has never been an election where the two main sides, and not to say that my brother Jeff is not in the contest, but publicly, in the public arena, the two major competitors could never be more different. The old English adage that birds of a feather flock together cannot be more true. In this election, it is actually a case of birds flowing, birds of a feather, flying together or flocking together. You have on the one hand a ticket that is of progressives, of Democrats, of liberators. You have on the other hand a ticket that is of oppressors, a ticket that is of basically the deplorables.
Okay.
But this
I'm glad you're not mentioning any name.
No, I'm not mentioning any names.
And don't.
But let me conclude this point by saying this. The moral ticket will be determined by the Kenyans themselves.
Yes.
Let IEBC clear these people. You know,
Let
we don't
Kenyans
want
decide.
anybody to be blocked. And you know, Kenyans are not fools. Kenyans are not fools. Some of the candidates have been going around saying there is a shortage of fools in Kenya. It is true. And if you want to know that Kenyans are not fools, some of the candidates have been campaigning for nearly 10 years. And yet they are trailing. They are trailing in the latest polls. The reason they are trailing is this issue we are discussing right here, the moral and integrity question.
Okay. As we end this, so we have about 4 minutes, so I'll try and divide it. Daktari, talk to me how Kenyans can finally settle this question for us in about 1 minute, because we have to close. How do we settle this question at the ballot? What is it that we have to look out for? The campaigns began yesterday and we're moving forward. So how do we determine this question of integrity? Because clearly the law will never determine it for us.
I think, again, even there we have failed an integrity test, because actually campaigns have been going on to some extent. But the official date was yesterday.
Yes.
I would like Kenyans to elect integrity, if at all they would understand that integrity means that quality of being honest, truthful, and open in things that you are doing, accountability and all those kind of things. But as we move on, that integrity alone is not just enough. I wish we would listen to these candidates, all of them, and choose
says,
prosperity for all. What do these candidates have in store for us?
Okay.
What do they really want to do that will benefit us as a people?
Okay.
I will tell you why I'm supporting Raila Amolo Odinga.
Yes. You have 20
The
seconds.
devolution.
Yes.
That idea of bringing the services to the people, the resources to the people, and the power to the people. And that's why, again, your question of let the people decide. People, as you are deciding, remember that you have the power to decide for your good or for your bad.
Okay.
So these records of the people, some of these leaders, you know them in your localities, you know what they have done.
Down to them.
Therefore,
Yes.
reject those wrong leaders and choose leaders who can bring development to your doorstep.
Okay.
If Kenyans were to vote, and if they are going to vote for trust and accountability, returning honor to the office of the president, they will vote for me. Because the record of who we have and who command a lot of money, and they are able to command a lot of media attention, their record shows otherwise. Therefore, I'm asking the Kenyans to realize that democracy is about secret ballot. Let me repeat, secret ballot. The ballot that you vote does not have a name, no ID, no picture. No one will ever know who you voted for. Whether you are Azimio, Kenya Kwanza, or anyone else. But because we know the records, and they know my record, and they know my will and the willingness and the drive to change the course of this nation, I am humbly asking for their support. And if integrity is on the line, I know Kenyans will decide that they vote for me to change the course of this nation. Thank you.
Okay. Well said, and campaigned also. I know where my vote will go.
Thank you.
Wakili.
Ken, the three greatest ills that face our country are corruption, tribalism, and poverty. And these three ills are actually having an incestuous relationship. You know, all of them are having an illicit relationship. So corruption gives, you know, tribalism and corruption, you know, rely on each other, and both of them give birth to poverty. And, you know, if you want me to put it in Kiswahili, you know, ufisadi, ukabila, umaskini. Those are the problems. And the only candidate and the only ticket that is going to solve that problem, because it is a problem of Kenyans across the country, whether you are in Lokichogio, or you are in Mandera, or you are in Namanga, where I come from, you are suffering because of corruption. You are suffering because of, you know, you are poor because someone has stolen the resources that would have gone to uplifting, you know, your situation. And the only ticket is a ticket that is a Baba na mama ticket.
All right. I feel the table is so not balanced tonight, especially because there was no other side. But I want to thank you, lady and gentlemen, for coming. My women rep right there in Migori.
But the topic has been very balanced. I mean, the integrity thing doesn't just belong to me or whoever.
Exactly.
Everybody should be
I agree.
A woman or man of integrity.
Exactly. Let's take a look before we end at tomorrow's newspaper today. The headlines in the bold newspaper, The Standard. Let's bring it up now and see what we're running with tomorrow. All right, that's the headline. I see up there, it's no longer a joke. Comedian to run for president. Nyambane, my friend, is running for president. And he's the first to be cleared, by the way. But the headline, the trouble spots has been gazetted. State agency report shows all areas that could potentially have security challenges before, during, and after the election, with the 70 days to go. Well, if you want to know the trouble spots, you need to grab the Standard. But I'll just mention a few of the high risk right here in the capital, Nairobi, Nakuru, Kericho, Kisumu, Uasin Gishu, and Mombasa. And this list is synonymous, you know. All those areas, Nairobi, Nakuru, Kericho, Kisumu. Mid is Narok, Marsabit, Laikipia, Lamu, Baringo, and Isiolo, Meru, Nandi, Samburu. Medium or low is Kisii, Elgeyo, Migori, Nyamira, Kilifi. All these have been mapped. So that's the Standard showing you that. If you need to know all those areas and why they've been mapped as such, grab a copy of the Standard. Obviously, there's a story from Kinoti and Haji fight now, security risk. They can't agree. Wakili, if I would have just gotten a minute, I would have asked you about that charge sheet issue. It's a big thing. But John will not give me a minute. And that charge sheet issue. But now they say it's a security risk. And the Standard is explaining. And Raila now wants a new rabbi aspirant, you know, just like that. He's just been buried today. And then they have to, because we're heading into an election and the country has to go on and expect to pay higher interest rates. Of course, so many beautiful stories in the bold newspaper. As I always say, only the bold speak the truth. The truth is found in the bold newspaper. Ken Mijungu, thank you so much for watching. Daktari asante sana. Daktari asante sana. Wakili asante sana. And have a good night. Meresha Witi earlier on sign language on behalf of the whole team. We do this again next week on Monday. Same place, same time. Good night.